you mentioned a name that should not be overlooked. And you know how I feel about George Pickens.
Right.
I think in Pittsburgh, he was never used properly. He has talent that has shown repeatedly he's capable to be so much more productive than he's been.
Yep.
The Steelers, and that's what made the decision by Pittsburgh to trade for DK Metcalf so strange, because they acquire a guy who was never used properly by the Seahawks, and he replaces the guy when they eventually traded him who they never used properly. And they've got CeeDee Lamb, who's going to attract extra attention. And you're talking about playing quarters coverage and single on the outside.
Right.
Good luck covering George Pickens single on the outside.
Right.
And we don't know what they have cooked up. But, you know, George Pickens could go for 150 tonight. He could. It doesn't take many catches by George Pickens to get to 150.
No, it does not.
And he gets open. And when he's not open, he's still open. We've seen him contort his body. We've seen him levitate. We have seen him do incredible things in his 3 years with Pittsburgh. And, yes, at a certain point, he was a pain in the butt, and they needed to move on, and they were ready to move on. And he would give flashes of that frustration. But that's the thing. The frustration comes from the fact that
he wants to play. He wants to play
I remember
well.
He did an interview with Kevin Clark a couple of years ago going into his second season. And it oozed through. He's always open, and you should throw him the ball every play. And that's not arrogance, and that's not delusion. It's reality. But we've lost sight of it because they don't throw it to him. And I remember thinking at one point that organizationally they didn't want to create a superstar that they were going to have to pay $35 million a year to, and then they went out and paid DK Metcalf $35 million a year. So much for that theory. But I think that it was just, you know, they've been so good at finding receivers, and there are so many receivers that end up being a thorn in their side, and Mike Tomlin has typically been able to deal with it until the guy goes elsewhere. They weren't able to deal with Pickens, but maybe the trade is the thing that causes him to wake up, causes him to become self-aware, mature, and come to Dallas in a contract year. And I think he'll have to have a big night for the Cowboys to win, and I will not be surprised if he does 150. If he does 150, I'm ordering the George Pickens jersey tomorrow. I already got the Pittsburgh George Pickens. I'll get the Cowboys George Pickens if he goes 150 tonight.
Well, I mean, like you said a few moments ago, it could be 4 catches, 150. He's that type of player. And to me, if there's a spot, and it's tough, right? Because you got to be aggressive. But if there's something that the Eagles defense gives you, they don't give you a lot. There's not many holes. We know they're awesome at all 3 levels. But the way they play defense in that quarters coverage, right, to get in the weeds about it a little bit, I talked about the corners are basically almost like in a man-to-man situation on the outside. The safeties, when you say set hut, right, they don't back up. They're kind of like stay where they are, and they take away the intermediate passing game. They take away 15-yard crossers and in-cuts and things like that. But within that, Mike, and I hope I'm painting the picture the right way.
You are.
You can send a tight end, right, 10 yards across the field or 15 yards across the field and kind of keep the attention of those safeties, and then you could run over the top with them with a CeeDee Lamb or a George Pickens, right? So now it's like, wait, those safeties are occupied, and now it's George Pickens versus Quinyon Mitchell on the outside, and Dak throws the deep ball pretty well, and that can create some explosive plays. So that's where you look at it and go, if Dallas is willing to be aggressive, which they usually are, they have a chance there to make some plays. And then, of course, if they can run the ball, that can change the dynamic. But I just don't know how effective, and I got to see it a little bit as far as Dallas's run game is concerned and how effective it's going to be.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.